Good morning, podcast. Welcome to the Pierre T Lambert show. I am Pierre, your host, and today I have with me Chris Burkard. Oh yeah, you heard it right. We have Chris on the podcast. It's gonna be awesome. Guys, I've been wanting to have Chris on the podcast for several reasons for a very long time, and I finally had the opportunity to do so. So, if you don't know Chris is an amazing landscape photographer, storyteller, and also a human being who keeps pushing himself to the limit and goes really deep into his discomfort in order to progress. And that is something I personally admire and love to do. And in this episode, we will be digging into a bunch of different topics. We're going to be talking about why taking pictures for fun is so fulfilling even as a working professional, why investing time in what really matters is the most important thing in life, and how come cycling took such an important place in his life, and how does it get him to really a greater creative space? How does he find ideas in those moments? Last but not least, I kind of asked him a weird question, which is Earth better without humans? And his answer might be surprising you. And last but not least, we will talk about creativity, discomfort, and how to become better. And that part is essential if you're trying to create anything in your life, if you're trying to progress. I think that episode will be pure fire for you. So without further ado, let's welcome Chris to the podcast and dive right into it. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your time even more because I know you're like a president.
No. I just kind of life's a little crazy sometimes, and I think I'm a big fan of trying to fit it all in, and sometimes that comes back to bite me in the butt. But for the most part, I love trying to make the most of my time. I guess you could say I'm kind of a workaholic in that sense. So.
Yeah, that's always the fine balance between, should I try everything and am I going to miss out?
Right, for sure.
Chris, I have a fun question I asked a few people the other day, and it's like, if I say photography, what is the first image, like photograph that comes in your head?
There's not even a photograph that comes to my head when I think of photography. I mean, to be honest, I think there was a time in my career when I was a real photography obsessed with photographs and with the concept of the idea of photography. And nowadays, when you say the word photography, or you say, what's the first thing that I just think about storytelling. And to me, it's not so much about a singular image nowadays as it is about the overall process of telling a great story. When I think of photography, the first thing that comes to my mind is what's my favorite film?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's because I think that what I realize more and more is that there's so much more to the process of creating a great image. There's also the emotion and the feeling of what it was like when you created it. There's the story behind the image. There's the why. There's the who. And I kind of want to know all that stuff. And although I have my favorite images, for me, it's probably the volcano photograph of the surfer in the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. But I guess I just think more on constant questions pop up, what's the deeper story behind this or behind that or whatever. So yeah, sorry. I'm pretty terrible at the question games or what do you think of when you think about this? Because my mind doesn't operate that way.
Well, you can't be terrible at it. There is no right answer.
Yeah, I guess.
There's just an answer.
Mm-hmm. True, good point.
I'm asking that because I've had different photographers, and the older they get, the more they talk about story versus photos, and or advanced in their career, and that's something I feel and I love about photos. Is just, or even film. It's what impacts you deeper than just that's pretty. That's.
Well, I think that what it is that there's a surface quality to something that's looks beautiful, right? Yeah. It's I think it's just it's almost easier to relate to food. It's I want something that really gets my taste buds quickly. I want a bag of potato chips. And it's ooh, yummy. It's all salty and it's good. And you're just eating it. You're thinking of your favorite potato chips and they're great. But the bag's done and you didn't really actually get any nutrients and it's not that great. So I look at amazing landscape photographs like that. I enjoy them. They're yummy. I'm a total sweets and salty fan, and but what I really want is like something hearty, you know, like a warm soup that like fills you up deep inside, and like a slice of bread, you know. So I think the point being is like there's true, real fulfillment that comes from connecting with other people's stories. And that's the stuff that changes you. Like that's the recipe that like changes who you are as a person potentially, and makes you in some way a better person, right? If you can like relate to a story and really take something away from it. And that's just like the things that I really care about, you know?
Yeah. Do you feel that as you move towards like a little bit further into your career, do you feel like you're going to you want to focus more on like just those stories and maybe the individuals, or you still?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like I still love the process of just like I mean, here's the one thing is like, I don't want to wax poetic about like every photo you take has to be this deep, meaningful thing. Like it doesn't. Like that's totally ridiculous. Like I love the process of just going out and taking pictures because it's fun.
Yes.
And it is fulfilling. Like that's it, for no other reason. But the more and more, the older I get, I do look for projects that I'm willing to invest my time into. And that's just what I really am saying is like, if I'm going to spend 6 months on something, I want it to be something that I am 100% like I'm on board with, and I care about, and I care about a person and their story and their this and their that and their yada, yada, yada. So, to me, those things are all so critical. Like they're so important. And I think that if you're going to be investing your time, money, energy, taking time away from your family, it better be an important thing, you know, it better be like, not like, I'm just going to go out and shoot this one great action sports image. For me, it's like, I want to go tell a story about a friend that changed my life, or a story that's, you know, significant. And that's, I think, where you get down to like the meat of it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I like what you're saying because it totally resonates with me, especially on that, like, can you work for something that's a little bit deeper, you know, like.
Well, you're going to be willing to sacrifice more for something you care about.
Exactly.
That's all there is to it. Like, it's just the same thing as like me hiring you because you have a camera and know how to operate it.
Yeah.
Like that's unfulfilling. You feel used, but you're making money, so you can't really complain.
Yeah.
But the point is like, I'm more willing to like give everything to something I truly believe in.
Yeah.
And those are the projects that you really suffer for, and the ones you suffer for are the ones that are good. Yeah. That's what passion is. Passion is being willing to suffer for something.
That is very true. What's your take on creating versus capturing?
I think that's an excellent thing, to be honest. Like, I actually love this concept of like capturing an image, like, and what that means. Like, it's like you're setting a trap and you're like capturing something. You're taking it for you, as opposed to composing an image, which, think about like the tact and like the elegance and the time and the energy that a composer puts into composing an orchestra. Like they're fully engaged in all these elements, and they're creating something beautiful. And then when it's over, it's over. I think, to me, like, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but like truly the verbiage in which we describe our process of creating images should reflect how much we care about that. You know, how that process, and respect it. And I find that like the more you respect a place, the more time you dedicate to it, the more care, concern, whatever, like I think it comes through in the images.
Do you have I agree. I like what you say about the orchestra, because that's kind of what happens also. That's why sometimes street photography, I do it just because I'm in cities a lot, and there's a magical element to it where it's like, you didn't set up anything, you know. It's just happening. Like it's beautiful. You just captured life at one point that will never be repeated. Right. Time, and it just makes me wonder, when you do landscape like that, and you're in those places, is there a way for you to have the landscape be actually a subject and not? Imagine you wanted to tell a story, you could not add a human element into that landscape. What would be your thoughts around that?
I mean, a good landscape image is completely an opinion-based thing. So that's the hard thing. It's like impossible to be like, what would you do? You know, like, to be honest, I never want to add a human subject or a human element or any element to an image unless I feel like it complements the image. To me, in a lot of ways, if I'm adding a human element, I'm adding a landscape to a portrait as opposed to the other way around. That's the way I always see it. And I grew up shooting surfing. So I was always shooting a subject. I was shooting people on surf trips. And it's funny because from that background, I was really like shooting surfing with a tight lens. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'd shoot a little wider and a little wider to the point where I was like showing the entire landscape, and you're adding the landscape to the subject. For me, the story was always like, well, I'm shooting this person or this whatever doing, this incredible feat of achievement, or whatever physical, achievement. And I'm trying to showcase the landscape in which they're doing it. Right. So there was always a relationship between subject and nature. Now, if I'm going into a national park or I'm going somewhere that like is just so beautiful on its own and I'm forcing myself to add something to it, that just doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't seem like you're doing that place a service. And I guess it's a hard thing for me to see imagery, and even in myself, I've done this. This is why I'm using myself as an example, is that going to a place feeling like, man, the only way I can make this interesting is by like inserting subject here. Yeah. Like that's not the right answer. And I think that what I find is that usually it's the byproduct of us being rushed, forcing ourselves to create something, capturing an image, so to say, and just trying to like get through it, right? As opposed to like when you do have the opportunity to go somewhere again and again and again and or go somewhere that you're able to really pay your respect or your time or put in your time, that's when you get like the amazing cloud formation or the rainbow after a storm or whatever, or the low cloud sitting in the valley, and your photograph is so interesting and so unique that adding anything to it would be like asinine. And I think that's really the way that I see it, is like we go to somewhere, it's crappy midday light, it's not a very interesting photograph, and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to like put a subject in there and try and make it interesting. That doesn't work. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because I do those shortcuts too, know? Or I was in Yosemite with friends, and like there's this epic, like, whatever, it's Taft Point. It's beautiful, and you add a subject that just gives skills, you're happy. But part of me also wished that it was totally natural, not natural, but like that it happened a little bit more candidly, just because I knew.
But the problem is nowadays something that happens candidly and something that doesn't, like people, like nobody even cares or notices or could tell the difference unless you like take the time to explain it, and then by taking the time to explain it, you take away the mystery.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's true. That's why I always like to discuss with you guys or with other photographers about that, because everyone has a little bit of different philosophy around that, Yeah. Especially when I speak with people who like really composite very deeply images, like, which goes into, for me, in totally art mode, where it's like completely imaginary, which is interesting, versus trying to stay in more the documentary style or like capturing. It always reminds us, I think, as creators, like, what route do you want to take, and what story really are you trying to share behind it?
Absolutely, yeah.
One of your images, I have to share that. One of your images from Yosemite National Park got me to Glacier Point, and cool. I didn't know where it was, but I remember. I don't know if it was a tutorial or video. One day I saw that skateboarder, like going. Yeah. I was like, that was maybe 5 years ago. That photo struck with me. Yeah. And it was
it's definitely become a bit popular.
I was like, wasn't it in Yosemite? You know? And then I just like Googled like quickly, and I found out it was Glacier Point. Obviously the road was amazing, and I couldn't help taking a photo there and doing stuff. I didn't use a skateboard.
It's so popular. It's crazy. I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny how like trends form and set. And it's like, you don't really do something. I don't aspire to create images in hopes to start a trend in some capacity. Yeah. It's just something that like I had done in the past and done before, and it's almost like it dawned on me to like want to take out the camera and take a picture of it, and it's so fun. Yeah. Like I've eaten shit there, like big time, like going around that bend and like like falling off into the rocks and whatnot. And it's like I always just think of like, I love our outdoor spaces, our national parks, and finding interesting and new ways to experience them, whether through climbing or, flying over in like a paraglider or a trike of some sort, or or whatever, skateboarding or cycling through it, or, to me, like, I just enjoy documenting the human experience, and whatever that may be, you know, in some capacity. So yeah.
Speaking of trends, do you feel it daunting sometimes to post stuff, just thinking like, God, everyone's gonna do the same? Or
no, I don't care. I mean, I don't think of. I think that's like, man, it's so hard because, like, you know, it always comes back to your intention, right? I understand that, and that's so important. But I think the reality is, like, if you're afraid of sharing something because, you know, of how somebody's going to perceive it, but it's really meaningful to you, that's going against your nature, you know? And, like, I think that in some ways, like, I also think there's something to be said for being a photographer or just a person in general who has a perspective, who's willing to, like, stand up for what they believe in, even if some people don't agree. Like, I think we're all too busy trying to please too many people. And I've always loved the advice of Yvon Chouinard. Like, if you're not pissing off 50% of the world, you're not doing your job. Like, not everybody should think what you're doing is great, or it's cool, or it's whatever. Like, there should be naysayers. That's a part of the process. And I think we fostered a culture where we're just trying to please everybody all the time. Yeah. And that's so unhealthy. Like, I mean, to not live in a world where there's some, like, I celebrate, like, differences of opinion. I love that. Like, it doesn't need to be controversial. It just needs to be like, well, somebody might like this, somebody might not. That's okay. Yeah. And, like, somebody might think this is dangerous. That's okay. Yeah. I don't need to appease everybody. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm also not that type of person where if somebody's, like, going to call me out or say something, I'm just going to, like, roll over, you know, like, I will tell them, give them my opinion, and make them realize, like, I am a human being with thoughts and intentions. And if you want to communicate with me, do so effectively via email or through DM or whatever it might be. But like, simply, you know, voicing your opinion online as if it matters, you know, when you're basically you're privileged to, you know, be able to take part in someone's creative process. That's not really, I think, effective, in my opinion. That is. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer to probably, like, not a very long, you know, winded question. But
no, I think it's great, and it's something that I think more and more nowadays you see it because you're in an age of instant feedback. You know, it's like you put a video on YouTube, you instantly see what happens.
Well, it's also challenging because, like, what do you want to see? Do you want to see something that's always just like rainbows and meadows and, you know, it's just like so soft, like everything's just like best day ever, amazing this, amazing that? Like, I just get bored with that. Like, I want to know something about somebody. I want to know somebody's opinion. I want to know, like, a perspective that means something to me. And if that means that person's going to share something that's potentially controversial, great. I welcome that because it allows me to see things from a different perspective. Yeah. Why would we want everybody to see things the same way we do?
Just like going shooting with someone who shoots only low angles and you think it's dumb, you know, you're like, oh, actually maybe there's something there. That's cool. I want to segue into something that's a little bit off photography. It's your adventure in Iceland with the bikes. I want cycling. So can you just, I want to see, did you learn anything from that experience? Because that's a little bit off of what you've been doing so far.
I don't think so. I think the reality is just I've allowed people to know more about my life. Oh. That's all there is to it. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't do. There's a lot of stuff I don't tell people because I don't.
Had you been biking for a long time?
I've been cycling for like 5 years, but I stopped when I had my son because I wanted. It's hard to take the time, and I started riding again. And you know, I've learned to become more open with people and share more of my personal life. You know, I'm also a certified yoga teacher. Like, I don't talk about that all the time. Do I need to? No. Do I need to share every single thing I ate every morning? And, you know, like, do I need to shove it down people's throats that I'm vegan? And I don't care. Right. So the reality is I've tried to a little more share insights of my personal life because it seems like people are interested, you know, but I'm also a sensitive creature. And I like, you know, it's hard because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, if it's not photography related, people won't care, you know? And so I'm trying to open up more and that's a part of getting outside of your comfort zone is like, okay, well, I'm going to share a little more of the insight that makes me me. And to be honest, cycling is just good exercise. But more than that, to be honest, it's forced time for me to be able to think. And it's forced time to allow myself to create space for creativity. That's all it is. And I'll tell you what, there's no greater creative space you'll ever enter than when you're 58 hours without sleep and you've exhausted your body riding 850 miles and you're seeing things and you're hallucinating and you're about to fall over and you're bleeding and everything hurts. Like, you get some really unique parts of you that I cannot express to others how fulfilling that is for me to like not only understand, like, of course, like how far can you go? It's not about that. And I think there's just this masochistic perspective people have of like, why would you do that? And the reality is like, I just want to create space for creativity to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like you. I'm always on my phone, and I mean, I'm sorry, I'm kind of judging here, but like I'm just like everybody else, right? Yeah. I'm always on my phone, and I'm always, inhibited by the day to day, and I'm getting it all in. But when I go out and ride my bike, or I go out and rock climb, or I go out and do whatever, I'm like, you can't do anything else. Mm-hmm. And I love that, and that's actually why I like to ride. Is like when I'm climbing, you stop. And then you can pull out your phone and, it only goes for like 20, 30 minutes at a time in a chunk. And I love climbing. And running is like just hard on the body. And I used to do it a lot. Yeah. But like there's just this long, and I urge everybody to find that thing for them. It's swimming or whatever it is. I've dabbled with a bunch of different sports over the years. And I love something about that. Like that gift you've given yourself, the gift of like being fully there.
That's your creative, it's like, how do you call that? Like a spring or whatever like the fountain where you go to regenerate.
Yeah. To me, to be honest, that's what it is. Like I can't tell you how many voice notes I've recorded on my bike where I'm like, this is a great idea. Like stop and like record something because they come to you.
Yeah.
And it's usually after like a couple hours of like, you're not bored, but you're kind of like, okay, well, this isn't as visually stimulating as like scrolling Instagram, right? But that's what you need. You need to like purge that for a bit. And then when you do come back to things, you see them with fresh eyes. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I can only 100% confirm what you said. And that's what I was telling Ben. He's like, oh, I can't wait to go back in the water and get everything away from me, every dive is like peeling a layer off,
I mean, that's what surfing is. It's like a baptism every time. You feel this like rejuvenation of like body and spirit. It's incredible. But I also think that the more you do something, the more kind of complacent you get. I mean, you see people doing incredible things and still being unhappy. And to me, I'm just like, whoa, that's weird. Like you weren't unhappy the first time you did it. You were probably overfilled with joy and it was like this childlike wonder. But you see people go out surfing and are like angry and yelling at people. And the reality is like, I think that there's something to be said for doing something over and over and over and trying to find different results, which is why I like to mix it up. Like I like to, like I'm not a cyclist. I just ride my bike sometimes. Yeah. And I'm not a climber. I just enjoy climbing. Like sometimes I just like trying new things and for a period of time and getting into it and then like moving on, and then dabbling back and forth. So
do you feel like photography is something that always stays with you no matter what?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
there times where you're like, you know what, I don't want to shoot.
I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it, but I don't pick up my camera for months at a time.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, all the time. Like that's the reality is like, I don't want to be just a photographer. I feel like it's limiting and I don't mean that in like a pretentious way. Like I feel like what I feel like is just giving yourself to that craft of storytelling limits you.
Yes.
Like there are months and months where I will practice like public speaking or I will practice presentations or I will practice because that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
And try this, like imagine if you're not a photographer anymore.
Yeah.
But you had to bring the same level of visual intimacy through public speaking. How would you describe things? How would you write things? I've been working on a book this last month that's coming out in October. I've been working on a film in Iceland last week. And I'm, there's a lot of other facets to my creativity that I try to foster. And I guess what I'm saying is that a lot of those require you to putting a camera down and giving time and space for those.
Yeah.
And I guess I hope that more creatives do that, because I'm excited to hear their voices in other ways, or their vision, right, in other ways.
Yeah, I feel like what you say is like something that is being unidimensional will keep you in the lane, in the box, and the only result you can expect is that lane or that box.
Yeah.
If you're not able to like spread a little bit thicker or like in different direction, you can't. No other results will come out.
None. Nothing else. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's that's what the like. What's the sign of, I'm totally blanking here, but it's basically like the definition of like being, crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting new results, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we do that from time to time, and and I guess that's what I'm trying to like get away from, is like, why am I just doing the same thing over, expecting new results? How else could I express this thing that I'm passionate about? And the thing that I'm passionate about is not photography. The thing that I'm passionate about is sharing my perspective with the world, and the things that are meaningful to me, and the things that I fear losing, and the things that I love. And a lot of that is nature, and is human experience, and is, people, and a lot of things. And I look for different ways to do it. And I feel like that's kind of, I guess, how I would define myself, and I think it's kind of cliche to be like, I'm a storyteller, but like, I really do hope to be a storyteller in any way I can. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I think you're doing a pretty good job so far.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
What you've been working on. I have a super weird question, because something you said like triggered, and that's me being me with weird questions.
I don't mind weird questions.
Do you think Earth is better off without humans?
No, of course not. That's I don't think it's the dumbest question you could ever ask. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, it's a great question. No, but I mean, personally, I don't think so. I mean, the reality is like, it's really funny, because like, we are consumers. We consume. Yeah. Animals consume too. Yeah. We all consume by our very nature. Like, I think that the answer to the biggest questions that we have in the world are not going to be like, humans are destroying Earth, we're a disgrace. Like, what does that even mean? Like, you're talking about your own race here of people. I'm sorry that not everybody sees the same way or the same perspective. And hey, if we could, in some way, and limit, the amount of new people coming into the world all the time, that'd be great. But that's not going to happen. Like there's not going to be a year where there's going to be a halt and no more people are going to be added to Earth's population base. That's not going to happen ever. Like, that idea is done. Yeah. Like, I think that the reality is that we need to foster more experiences where people can learn to care about the natural world, because the greatest issue that humans have is we're too smart. Yeah. And we tend to think our way through everything and work out how to make things as simple as they could possibly be. And this pursuit of simplicity, and this pursuit of, and when I mean simplicity, I also mean like technological advancements in how we can make our lives easier. Yeah. And this pursuit of ease is what has put us into this situation. Yeah. It's much, much different when everybody has to like walk to a well to get their water, or walk to a stream, or has to engage with nature every single day. But when we've made life easier by living in cities, and by, being able to jump on, this commuter, that commuter. And I'm not saying these are bad things. I'm just saying that we have lost touch with nature and our connection to it. Yeah. And when you lose touch with something, it's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. I choose to be vegetarian, vegan, because I cannot come to grips with killing my own food. Okay. And that's just the reality. I don't have a problem with anybody else doing it at all. I'm not here to, advocate for PETA or for the, even for the fair treatment of animals. I love animals, and I hope they're all treated fair. But I'm not saying like people shouldn't, kill animals. Everybody should do whatever they want, right? I just know for me personally, and I think that that's just me trying to be in touch with my own reality. And nature in general is like, if I was forced to, I would, right? But I'm not. And I also know that it's not something that's asked of me. So again, all I'm just saying is like, I aim to be as introspective and as possible. And I just want people to be able to have experiences that force them to kind of question who they are, be the most real version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the more opportunities people have to be out in nature and to experience this stuff, and not just like what I'm getting at here is like just going to the grocery store, buying food, not knowing where it comes from, not knowing the process that it has to go through, not knowing anything. And I mean, I think food is the best example of out of sight, out of mind, but there's a million other examples that you could potentially bring up and this, that, but I'm just saying in general, like that to me is the greatest crux. I don't think humans are really the scourge of the earth. I think that we've actually, done incredible things to create an amazing existence for everybody here, for each other. And we bring joy to each other's lives, and we do this. We also bring a lot of terrible things, but I think that, the thing that we really need to consider is just where are we at in our own personal journey with interacting with the natural world.
Yeah, I love those thoughts. I think it's very difficult to define, first of all, what is good and bad behavior.
Right, of course. That's the thing. It's like, you like kind of set yourself up for failure even answering the question.
It's crazy, and that's what I keep learning as I go also personally, because I'm very opinionated on so many stuff. I don't know where it comes from in my life, but I have an opinion on everything, mainly because maybe I'm French, and we do.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's... what you say and what I come to realize, and I would love your answer about should there be no human. In a way, it's like the Earth would still evolve. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It might still get destroyed. Yeah. It might still disappear in 500 million years. Yeah. Who the heck knows? And what I came to realize, just like one of the photos you shared where you I think it was, I don't know where it was, but there was this guy on the ledge, and the one side was dark, one side was like bright with the sun, and you were talking about balance. And that's what I came to realize. I'm like, everything's freaking balance, whether you want it or not, whether you were destroying the Earth or like our vision of Earth within the next 200 years and all die or not, or go in space or whatever, it doesn't matter. There are like 5 million other planets who are disappearing every day. A new star is coming up. We are so insignificant. It blows me away that some people complain like it's their job. And I just like, I really question where people's pursuit of joy is in their life. Yeah. And the process of bringing joy to other people. Yeah. And to me, that is 100% my mission statement is I want to bring joy and happiness to other people's life. And because I feel like life is an incredible gift, and I've been given the gift of life by somebody who had to sacrifice a lot for me to have it. Mm-hmm. And that perspective is my own personal perspective. Nobody can take it from me. And I just feel like I aim to bring joy to other people's life and try not to complain too much, and try to, and it's a funny thing, like when I see something online or in the world that bothers me, rather than opening my mouth and just giving someone my opinion about it, the first thing I try to do is think, am I doing that? Is that something that I could be working on? Where am I failing in that regard to live up to, X person's expectation? Not to say that you need to, but just like, I don't think our first reaction should be to like point the finger and blah, blah, blah. It's like no, it should be introspection. It should be introspection. Yeah. And I've realized a lot about myself in doing so. Yeah. It's also like what triggers you. Like it probably triggers you because there's something about, your own personal life that is 100%. 100%. And I feel like it's like you're living your experience of life. Mm-hmm. Meaning you're experiencing life with your own lens. We're in the same universe or maybe different universe, but like my vision of you right now and your vision of me is a million miles away from each other, right? Mm-hmm. I might see you one way, you see me one way, but you see me based on all your experiences you've had in that current life. Mm-hmm. And same for me. And and whenever I get like bogged down, like you said, or like when I realize that I'm a little bit too reactive on something, and I don't want to take, that's something I work on personally, not to react and just actually try to switch gears and be like, okay, how did it experience life? What can I take from that and their perspective? And do I really have a better answer than them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's weird. It puts me in a place sometimes where I'm like, well, it's not bad. It's not good. And then I'm just like stuck not in the middle, but
you're vanilla. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, if it works for you, man, like I personally want to tend towards something that's harmonizing with whatever's around me.
Right.
Versus saying this is good, this is bad.
Right.
I'm more like, is it creating harmony or is it creating discomfort for the environment or people around me?
Yeah. I also think there's times and places in which like creating discomfort is a good thing, because you're never going to make change unless if everything's just always kosher and easy peasy and whatever. And I think that but I think this call out culture is what I think we're both talking about here, which is like, it's just where it's dangerous. Like it's the call out culture without introspective culture. Yeah. And I think that there's you need both, right? Yeah. And I respect both. And which is why when I see somebody saying something to somebody else or saying something to me, or I want to say something to someone, I just want to think about my own life first and be like, well, how could I improve this if this is something that triggers me or whatever? I don't know. So I don't even know how we got on this topic, but ultimately, I think that for me, like, photography is a tool to bring joy, and that is all there is to it. And I hope that my images can do that.
That's awesome. Chris, I think we can wrap it up here, because those are awesome thoughts. And I think we could go on forever.
No, I like it. I enjoy talking about the more existential questions as opposst to like, so what's your f-stops and apertures, and what's, it's like the camera is just another canvas. That's it. That's really all it is.
That's what it's like, do you want the blue hammer or do you want the green hammer?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I don't know. I just want to, I just want to hammer the nail.
Yeah, exactly.
Just give me any hammer.
Right. Like, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. Like we're building a house, and whatever you want to put in that house is up to you. And ultimately, you're going to use different tools, and it takes a variety of different skill sets, and you can get there in a very quick way. Yeah. You can get there in a very slow way, and I think the important thing is what are your intentions on filling that? What do you plan to put inside? What do you plan? And I think that what I really try to empower other photographers to consider, because I consider this myself, is like, what is your mission statement and what are you trying to say with your images? It is so hard to give people advice when they ask it. If they don't know what they want, if they don't know where they want to end up, I cannot give you a roadmap. Yeah. I cannot tell you which path to take if you don't know where you want to go. Yeah. It's nearly impossible. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's probably the mystery of life too. Anyways.
Yeah. I never ask feedbacks on my photos anymore. Maybe I did when I was told beginner, but
I have the hardest time. I tell people online, they always ask, oh, can you look at my photos? And I'm like, I would love to, but I don't give feedback online because I don't know you. I can't offer someone feedback if I don't have a chance to sit with them, understand who they are. It would be so dishonest. Yeah. Just to be like, I looked at your image for 5 seconds, they look great. Or imagine like telling someone, I looked at your image for 5 seconds, they're terrible. That would crush them. Like, and it's also like such an opinion. It doesn't mean anything. I just think like I really aim to like, when I give feedback, I want it to be real and I want it to be honest. And I think that requires understanding someone's goals and aspirations. Yeah. Because just because I don't like it or just because I don't think it's whatever, it doesn't mean it's bad or it's good. It just means that's my opinion. But as I think a teacher and as a critic, I've tried to learn to take my own opinion out of things and sort of look at something in the greater context of like, is this work benefiting this person's goal to get here? Yeah. Whether I like it or not, that's irrelevant. Yeah,
I agree. My go-to answer is, do you like it?
Yeah.
Like I'm like literally, well.
Yeah,
first of all, do you like it? Because you don't need my like or my approval.
Right.
Like.
Well, yeah.
Because I put my face on the YouTube channel for like God knows how many episodes doesn't mean that I have more. I have any right to tell you that your photo is
right. And I try to explain that. I'm like, the last thing I want is for someone to think like, oh, well, you know, I aim to empower people to be like, to understand why they shot it. Mm-hmm. What was the driving force? What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
And I think that by asking those questions, if someone takes that seriously, they'll get to a place where they have a greater understanding of themselves and their work and everything. So
it's all about discovering yourself in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wrapping question, Chris.
Yep.
Meditation. Where do you stand?
I mean, 100%. I'm huge into meditation. And I've taken like actual meditation courses, and I've, you know, through my yoga teacher training, I was able to do quite a bit, and through practice, I've done a lot. But to be honest, I don't think that meditation needs to be this sitting down, being quiet, your back straight, your legs in, you know, cross-legged position, you know, breathing out your nose. I don't think that's what you necessarily need to do. I feel like meditation can come in many, many forms. And to me, you know, being out in the ocean is oftentimes a form of meditation. What I like is, I think that meditation is when you ask yourself to shut off some of your senses.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing, because I feel like for me, like being on the bike can be a form of meditation. And I say that because what I'm doing is I'm engaging certain senses a lot, right? And I'm kind of shutting off other ones, right? And I don't know how to describe that in like the best way, but exercise for me has been a really great meditation. Like, you know, doing something repetitively over and over and over, and asking your body, and your body's focusing on that. And I'm not really focusing on like what somebody's saying to me. I'm not really focusing on like, you know, other sensations. It's a weird scenario, because the kind of the point of meditation is you shut off certain senses so you can feel even more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the goal. And you can find that in many different ways. Yeah. And I would just say to find what makes sense for you, whether that's sitting in a quiet room, whether it's sitting in a sauna, whether your meditation is just reflecting in some capacity. Like, I really like that when I ride on like a train or at home, I'll put earplugs in so I don't hear anything sometimes. And I just like close my eyes and just like, you know, that breath is really nice to focus on. But I would say that anything that allows you to, you know, remove oneself from oneself is, which sounds so dumb and like esoteric, but I think that's the goal in my mind. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the moment you start trying, I don't think what you said sounds dumb anymore.
Yeah.
For anyone who's ever tried to shut his mind down, you know, the voice that keeps speaking.
I mean, that's the point. And my mind is very active, so I need that, like, that you know, voluntary effort to shut my mind off a little bit. And that's come through many different things. And I just, and even through like, you know, forcing myself to like go and do public speaking. Like, I don't enjoy it. I'm scared.
Really?
Yeah. But I do it because my heart starts pumping, and, you know, I'm getting myself out of my comfort zone. Like, I would be an imposter if I didn't force myself to do things that were out of my own comfort zone, you know, and this is why I do those things. Yeah. Like, you know, photography at a certain point becomes comfortable.
Oh yeah.
You can't we can't always be like, yeah, photography. It's like, you know, that doesn't work like that. Like, there's a lot of other things in my life. Like, even I started learning how to ride horses. I bought a horse because they terrify me. And that was something really scary to me. And I, with my wife and her help, like, tried to overcome that. So that, you know, this is random, but like that's...
No, but you dipped your toe into that on purpose.
Right.
I heard something, or was it my wife? I can't remember, but she's like, you know what? It's not really a challenge to ask an entrepreneur to start a business.
No.
You know? She's like, but now ask an entrepreneur to get a daytime job and stick through it for 3-5 years.
Yeah.
She's like...
That's a challenge.
She's like, because like everyone talks about you should quit your job and do your own thing. Yeah, right. If you're entrepreneurial, that feels natural. You want to.
You gravitate to that. Yeah.
What if we ask those people to actually stay in the job? You know. So she's like, so comfort is a completely.
It's totally perspective. You know, like that's the thing.
I'm sure Renan is in his element when he's in the mountain. You know, like struggling or like in tough. Environment.
Renan for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you take Renan to like a public setting and force him to interact with people. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm uncomfortable in that situation too, but I kind of, through meditation and being like, okay, this is part of my mission statement. This is part of this is part of my process to spread that joy, because I can share my ideas and thoughts. I have to keep myself in check. Like, this is the purpose. And at the point when it turns to like drinks and, you know, this and that, and nobody's listening, nobody cares, then I'm like, okay, my time is done. I'm going to bail, you know, but I think that's a part of it. We have to think about, you know, how we can grow and then put ourselves in situations where we can.
That's the best. I think we can leave everyone with those awesome thoughts.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate
Chris,
your time.
Just in case no one knows you, where can they find them? Find you on I'm joking.
Yeah, just Google my name. I'll pop up somewhere out there, random in the web. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time,
buddy.
Chris.
Appreciate it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed that episode. If you did, remember, share it with your friends. Send it to your cat, to your dog, to your neighbor, to your photography group. Tag me on your Instagram stories. Make sure you get the word out. I think that episode had so much value in it that you cannot not share it. It's so important. And last but not least, make sure you go check out Chris's work, because it goes beyond Instagram. I want you to watch his movie. I'll link everything in the show notes, and also check out his books, because that gives you another dimension into a human being and the stories that person likes to share. That's always so important, and there is always something inspiring that you can take out of it for your own life and for your own creations. All right, guys, with no further ado, get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. I will talk to you in the next episode. Have an amazing day. Bye.